Have you ever watched a Formula One race and noticed a shower of sparks flying out from under the cars as they speed down the straights or glide through high-speed corners? It's a dazzling sight, almost cinematic, especially during night races like Singapore or Las Vegas. But those sparks aren't just for show. They're a direct result of F1's blend of extreme engineering, physics, and regulation-driven design. So today, let's deep dive into the world of F1 sparks. We'll explore what causes them, the materials behind them, how the rules encourage or even require this phenomenon, and why they're actually crucial for performance. Grab your helmet, because this ride is going to get fast, low, and fiery. The sight of sparks flying from the undercarriage of an F1 car is one of the most visually iconic parts of the sport today. These bright orange flares shoot out in quick bursts as the cars bounce over curbs or compress into high-speed corners. And while they may seem like a modern addition for dramatic effect, they're actually a throwback to earlier eras of racing. Back in the 1980s and early 90s, before the days of social media virality and 4K onboard cameras, sparks were already lighting up the track. They came from titanium skid blocks being pushed into the asphalt as the car's floor bottomed out. What's changed in today's era is that now, it's all intentional. The FIA mandates specific materials and configurations that actually help generate these sparks. Why? Because sparks aren't just entertaining. They're deeply intertwined with how these cars behave on track. So, what actually causes the sparks? It's all about ground clearance, or more accurately, the lack of it. F1 cars are designed to run incredibly close to the ground to maximize downforce, the aerodynamic grip that keeps them stuck to the track. The lower the car, the better it performs aerodynamically. But that also means that when the car goes over bumps, curbs, or even hits high-speed compression zones on the track, parts of the floor, particularly the skid blocks or plank and titanium skid plates, can scrape against the asphalt. And when that happens at over 300 kilometers per hour, that contact generates friction and heat, and the titanium ignites in a shower of bright orange sparks. Titanium is used because it's durable, lightweight, and creates more visible sparks than other metals. This is no accident. It's baked into the regulations and even partially encouraged by F1's governing body for both safety and spectacle. Let's talk about the skid block, often referred to as the plank. Introduced in 1994 as a direct result of Ayrton Senna's tragic crash at Imola, the plank was designed to limit how low a car can run and reduce the risk of cars becoming aerodynamically unstable. The plank is made of a wood-like material called jabrock, a type of beechwood composite. But alongside the plank are strategically placed titanium skid blocks. These are the real spark makers. They're bolted into the floor in key pressure points, especially near the rear diffuser and outer floor edges. When the car bottoms out, meaning when the suspension is compressed to its max and the floor hits the track, those titanium pieces grind against the asphalt, and the result is that glittering trail of sparks. These parts also help FIA officials monitor if a car is running illegally low, as overworn skid blocks can lead to disqualification. Now fast forward to modern F1, specifically the era since 2022. That year marked the return of ground effect aerodynamics, which uses sculpted tunnels under the car to suck it toward the ground. This concept made cars even more sensitive to vertical load changes, especially through high-speed corners. As a result, cars bottom out more frequently than before, particularly on bumpy circuits or tracks with aggressive elevation changes. That bottoming out happens most intensely at the end of long straights, just as a driver hits the brakes and the front of the car dips dramatically. This is where sparks are most often seen. Under heavy load, the titanium skids scrape the ground with ferocity. Ground effect has inadvertently boosted spark generation because it's now much harder to keep the car from occasionally scraping the tarmac. The FIA even monitors this with wear sensors to make sure teams aren't pushing things too far. Remember porpoising? That bouncing effect many cars suffered from in 2022 due to excessive ground effect? It, too, created more sparks, sometimes alarmingly so. As the car bounces, it rapidly compresses and decompresses, causing the floor to smash the track repeatedly. Not only did this compromise performance, but it also made the cars dangerous and uncomfortable to drive. The sparks in these cases weren't just cool visuals, they were warning signs. Sparks in such frequency often indicated that the floor was taking serious punishment. Teams then had to strike a delicate balance, lower the car for better grip and aero, but not so low that it bottoms out and damages the floor or breaks FIA ride height limits. Some teams even modified suspension setups just to control the spark frequency. A vivid example of how something that looks simple has deep engineering consequences. It might look cool, but sparks aren't just harmless pyrotechnics. Over time, excessive bottoming out can damage the car's floor, especially its aerodynamically sensitive edges. This can reduce downforce and ruin race pace. That's why the FIA strictly monitors the wear rate of the plank and limits how much of it can be worn away during a race. If the titanium skids and the plank wear too thin, it's game over. The car will be disqualified post-race, no matter the finishing position. Case in point, Michael Schumacher in 1994 and Sebastian Vettel in Hungary 2021, both penalized for cars not meeting post-race floor legality. Teams must constantly walk the tightrope between running low enough for performance and high enough to avoid illegal wear or dangerous bottoming. Those sparks you see? They're a telltale sign that this balance is being tested in real time. Let's not pretend F1 doesn't know how good sparks look. In recent years, night races like Singapore, Jeddah, or Las Vegas have elevated the visual drama. Under artificial lighting, those orange-hot sparks become camera candy, capturing the raw mechanical violence of F1 at its finest. And while the FIA won't admit to regulating the sport for optics, there's no denying that the choice of titanium over other materials like steel or tungsten is partially driven by its spark-producing quality. It's part of the modern F1 aesthetic: low-flying cars, trails of fire, and roaring engines. Now you might be wondering, do other racing categories produce sparks like Formula One? The short answer is, not really, and definitely not to the same extent. In series like IndyCar, WEC, World Endurance Championship, or even Formula E, the cars are generally designed with more ground clearance and different aerodynamic principles. Their circuits are often bumpier, but the car's ride heights are tuned to avoid excessive scraping, prioritizing durability over raw downforce. Plus, their floors don't use titanium skid blocks the way F1 does. In fact, sparks are so rare in those series that when they do appear, it often signals a mechanical issue. This contrast highlights just how extreme Formula One engineering is. The pursuit of speed, the use of ground effect, and the tightrope act of ride height tuning all combine uniquely in F1. It's one of the only sports where creating sparks is not just incidental, it's practically part of the philosophy. Social media clips of onboard footage showing a shower of sparks are some of the most viral F1 content out there. It adds to the thrill, and F1 has no problem with that. In the end, the sparks flying off an F1 car are more than just fireworks. They're the result of fine-tuned engineering, tight regulation, and decades of aerodynamic evolution. They signal just how close to the edge teams are willing to push their machines, both literally and figuratively. So what does the future hold for this fiery phenomenon? With F1 regulations set to change again in 2026, bringing in new aero concepts and a completely revamped power unit formula, sparks may evolve too. There's already talk of even stricter plankwear monitoring, active suspension returning in some form, and floors being redesigned to reduce porpoising while maintaining downforce. All of these factors will influence how often cars bottom out and how often sparks fly. But one thing's for sure: As long as Formula One continues to push the boundaries of physics and performance, and as long as fans and broadcasters relish that shower of sparks on a hot lap, there will always be a place for that dramatic flash beneath the cars. It's where engineering brilliance meets visual theater, a symbol of the fine edge that F1 teams are always driving on. From titanium skids grinding the asphalt at 300 kilometers an hour to planks wearing dangerously thin, every spark tells a story. A story of physics, ambition, and the pursuit of the perfect lap. Next time you watch a race and see sparks under the night sky, remember, it's not just for show. It's the car whispering that it's dancing right at the edge of what's physically possible. That's F1, spectacular, scientific, and slightly dangerous.